Hi, everybody. Hope you guys are doing great. I am Soleil, Mambo Soleil. I am the founder and facilitator of the Charm School Mentorship Program. I am the Coven Mother of Vision Adulthour. I am Adult Bitch straight up out of Oakland, and I am your weekly reader here on this channel. So this is happy hour. I don't do happy hour segments every week. I want to get to the point where I do them every week, but this is just where we sit around and chill. Treat it like an actual happy hour. So we drink wine together. I have my water today. I'm not drinking. Hydration is key. And we just kind of, shoot the ish about any topics that have been popular in pop culture, geopolitics, anything in the zeitgeist. I do pull a couple cards based on these topics as well, if you guys are interested in me pulling cards, but it's mostly our opportunity to just have weekly check-in, little chit chat, shoot the ish with each other, and share opinions. If as you come into the room, introduce yourself, say hi, I speak back, hit those scale emojis, let me know that you're with me. For those of you who have been following me for a while, you know that the scales are really important to me. They're linked to my name in a really particular way, and they just give me a lot of energy and a lot of support. So hit those scale emojis as you come into the room. Hey, Ami ASMR. So, let's jump right on into it. I don't plan on being here very long tonight because I do teach for Charm School tonight. But I did want to come on and have a little bit of a discussion while I had some time to do so. Have people seen the clips going around about B. Simone? Hit the scales. Let me know if you've seen the memes or the clips of her in her interview going around with her her best friend. I think it's a really interesting topic. Those of you who've been following me for a while know that I talk about friendship a lot. I have a series that I need to pick back up called "What About Your Friends?" Where I talk about things like this, how to spot genuine friends, how to maintain good relationships. I had a class that I was supposed to teach about how to deal with friendship breakups, but there was a lot of drama and I got basically forced into not teaching that class in a really fucked up way by a false friend. I'm going to teach that class before the year is over because I think it's a really important conversation to have. But yeah, I think this is interesting. First of all, I don't know who out there believed that B. Simone was a girl's girl. I never got that energy from her, right? She literally made her fame and made her name off of being a pick-me. Remember the skits used to do, "You're my boyfriend," like that whole thing, right? And then also the chasing and the running behind the baby. So not only has she never presented as like a girl's girl, in my opinion, she's never presented as somebody who had a whole lot of discernment. Why would you lust? If you lust after anybody, why in every everlasting fuck would it be Jonathan Kirk? Why would it be the baby? Right? It's weird. But I think it's an interesting conversation because there are so many assumptions that are happening, right? We're assuming that these women are actually best friends. Let's be real. Let's hold ourselves accountable. How many of us have been in a situation where we were calling someone our best friend and they actually fucking hated us? How many of us have been in a situation where we see somebody jump into a very love bombing dynamic with us and start calling us their best friend when they barely know us? How many people have been in a situation where they were in dire straits and needed some financial assistance, right? Hit a financial hard time that they did not expect? How many of us have had friends that hit hard financial times that they did not expect, and you were the person in the position that was expected to give, right? I think a lot of us can speak about each position if we're being really real and honest with ourselves, right? Because I have online stalkers and monitoring spirits that follow me, I have people that throw in my face the fact that I hit a financial hard time 3 years ago. Like, even though it's been 3 years since that happened to me, there are people that will go and pick up those screenshots and put them in my email and put them in, like, do weird shit, right? People are just that way. They will judge you when you go through these things. Why am I bringing this up? The thing that I learned about being on both sides, either being the friend that had it and was expected to give, or the friend that needed it and had to temper my expectations, right? Is that nobody's obligated to do for you. That may sound really mean, it may sound really weird, but that is the reality of the situation, right? So even though we're looking at B. Simone, and it's really easy to judge and be like, girl, you're a millionaire, you're famous, you're why would you not help your best friend? We don't know that lady. We don't know this woman. We don't know what her history of money is. We don't know what she did to get into the situation that led to her financial restraints, right? So I think it's important that we temper our expectations around that. I think a lot of us see a person in need and assume, based off of our own experiences, that they may have gotten in there by happenstance. But we don't know if she got there by her own poor decisions, right? So there's no telling what B. Simone witnessed in terms of how this woman got into the situation that she was in, right? And as much as we would like to idealize and imagine that we're going to help all of our friends with no strings attached, we also have a responsibility to protect ourselves, right? So if I see somebody, and say I know someone who, is really good at attracting money, but they're not good at keeping it. Say someone who, can make $10,000 in 1 week, but then they're broke 2 weeks later. If you know that somebody has a bad relationship to money, and then you go and bail them out, you're actually not helping them. You're enabling them, right? And this is something that I talk about all the time with my coaching clients. I talk about it with my friends in charm school. Sometimes doing the right thing for somebody is not actually doing the easy thing or the thing that's going to make you feel benevolent or the thing that's going to make you feel most comfortable. It's actually sometimes the worst thing that you can do is the thing that's going to make somebody more comfortable, right? So, and I feel bad that I don't remember the young lady's name and I keep calling her B. Simone's friend. But realistically, I know people have said that she was being shady or passive aggressive by bringing those things up in the interview. I really don't feel that way. I really think that she genuinely believed what she said when she was like, I had to lose my car. I had to go on welfare. I had to work through my resentments towards you as my friend, and the assumption that I had that you were supposed to help me. I had to heal through that. That was a trial for me. I really believe her when she says that. Again, as somebody who's been in that position, when I was in my situation 3 years ago, I had up a GoFundMe, everything, needed help and assistance from my community. I had a lot of friends that did not contribute to that campaign. I had a lot of friends that I still speak to this day and that I love them with all my heart and soul, did not help me in that situation. Now, do I know why they didn't help me? No, because that's not my business and that's none of my concern, right? I think sometimes hyperfixating on the people that can't help you takes your vision away from the people that did help you and that can serve you, right? And so if I were to hyperfixate on, oh my God, you've been my soror for this many years, or we've been in this organization all this time and you didn't reach out. If I'm hyperfixating on that, that's energy and gratitude I'm taking away from the people that actually did help me, right? Now, this is in no way, shape, or form to excuse B. Simone. I think it's really clear, and this is not the first time that she's been in this situation with a friend. This is not even the first time this woman has been allegedly in a situation where people have accused her of arrogance, right? I do think that B. Simone is one of those people who uses her ambition as an excuse to mistreat people, allegedly, right? At least from what I've witnessed. And I've encountered people like this in the world. And here's the thing. Even though we know for a fact that you don't have to do people dirty to win, you don't have to do people dirty to be successful, there are people that are deeply convinced that you do. And that behavior is rewarded a lot in our society, right? So again, we can harp on B. Simone as an individual, or we can learn a collective lesson about this. And I think it's really important. B. Simone is going to look up one day and she's not going to have any friends. I don't say that as a wish on her. I say that based off of what I've seen happen to people who move this way, right? If you always treat people like collateral damage on your journey of climbing the ladder to success, you will look up one day and you may be a little closer to your goals, but there won't be anybody around you to celebrate with you. And I think it's really easy for us to convince ourselves that, when we are successful and people stop talking to us, that it's because, they couldn't keep up or they couldn't follow the lifestyle or And it's harder to look back on the person you had to be to get to your success and really ask yourself, how did I treat people along the way, right? So it's interesting because in the one clip you have her talking about how this friend talking about how she was in desperate need and it was difficult for her to watch B. Simone not only be wealthy and have a certain amount of notoriety, but actively helping other people while she needed help, right? Then you have the follow-up clip where the same young lady is talking about how she was gifted with an opportunity and her best friend, B. Simone, basically gave her no energy, gave her no positivity, got off of the phone, called her back, and then told her, like, I don't like the way that this is making me feel because you are engaging in this opportunity without me. Let's talk about that. How many of us have been in a situation where we realize way too late that the people who claim to love us or the people that call us friend don't want to see us win unless they can either take credit for our win or unless our wins are somehow less than theirs. Let's be real. It's a thing that happens. And it's heartbreaking when it happens. But the only thing that makes it even more disappointing having to deal with that feeling is dealing with somebody who is so disconnected from their relationship to accountability that they try to push it back on you, right? Or that they try to make it seem like they have no responsibility for the feeling. And I think that was the weird thing about watching that clip with B. Simone, because she just kept saying, I was just so convicted. I was so convicted. Okay, you were convicted, but you were wrong in your convictions, right? You were convicted, but you were wrong in your conviction because there is no reason why, if you see somebody that you love winning, that you can't celebrate them. And if your reason for not wanting to celebrate them is the fact that you can't take any credit for their win, that you can't make their win about you, that's pretty trashy. That's not a good thing. And so, yeah, a person of sound mind and of good character, a person who's dedicated to emotional and spiritual maturation, will sit with that feeling and come to recognize that it's not a good way to feel, that it's not a responsible way to engage with people that you love, right? But instead, this woman, in her emotional immaturity, decided that she was going to call back her friend and steal her friend's moment by making it about her feelings and the ways in which she felt left out. I think we make all these jokes in this day and age about main character syndrome, right? But that shit is not cool. It's low-key kind of dangerous, especially if you want community, right? And I didn't even know that this was a thing. Let me rephrase that. I was not aware. I did not want to confront the reality that we live in an era where people want friends but don't want community. And I only had to learn that the hard way over the last year or so, year and a half of my life, right? There are a lot of people that want friends and don't want community. Now, you're probably hearing that and you're thinking, how can you have friends and not have community? Exactly. Exactly. You fucking can't. And a lot of what people call friends are not friends. They have acquaintances. They have props that they can put in pictures that they post to social media to make their life look better than what it is. If you have people in your phone that you can only call on to go out for drinks, those are drinking buddies. Those are not your friends. Friends are sources of support. They are mirrors and reflections of who you are, right? And I think that leads to a lot of problems, right? So you end up in situations where you have frenemies. You have people who have made it clear through their actions and even sometimes through their energy that they don't like or fuck with you. But because they see a benefit in you, because having you around serves them in some sort of way, they will pretend and they will make exception. But those performances don't last very long, right? I believe I shared, and I'm not going to mention names or the context because, again, monitoring spirits and stalkers who come to my channel. But I had a situation where I was friends with someone for about 3 years. And we were in the same spaces and community before that, but our friendship was only 3 years long. And it wasn't until they did some things that were really fucked up in deep forms of betrayal, and I decided to stop talking to them, and they started sending their flying monkeys towards me to gaslight me into letting them back in my life, that I realized that they were going around telling people that we'd been friends for 10 years, which couldn't be further from the truth. We were not friends for 10 years. In fact, before we engaged in friendship, this person had been talking really shitty about me, really poorly about me, poorly to the point where the people who loved me, who were in rooms with them talking shit about me, didn't even have the heart to tell me the stuff that they said until after we had our fallout, right? But again, this was a person that, because of the context in which I was around them, saw me as beneficial, saw my light and experienced it, and then wanted to, I was going to say take advantage, wanted to experience that light, right? And then befriended me, but suddenly had amnesia about the whole 7 years before in which they were talking about me like I was a dirty dog in the street, right? And then we had to hit a hard bump, which should not have gone the way that it did. If there was a just basic respect for communication, it could have been navigated through. But we had to hit a hard patch for me to learn what they really believed about me. That's a frenemy. Frenemies are not people. It's merged with the word friend, so we think friendship is inherent in it. It's actually not. The friendship is a performance. It's a lie. And a lot of times we know that that's a lie, but we ignore Ori. We silence our intuition. We gaslight ourselves. Oh, I'm overreacting. Oh, I'm being sensitive. Oh, they couldn't have meant that nasty thing that they said. Even though they're never going to stop saying the nasty thing, and they'll keep doing it in an underhanded way because your dumb ass ain't checking them. I think that, unfortunately, we know when we have a frenemy. We know. And it's only through ignorance and ignoring the red flags that we get to a point where the enemies hurt us or the frenemies hurt us, right? So I'm talking about this because I think it's really important for us to take responsibility for the ways in which we find ourselves in the frenemy situations, but also to learn from those red flags and to trust ourselves and follow that intuition. No, if someone does not want to see you be successful because there's a small chance that your success may eclipse theirs, they don't love you. That is not your friend. If your friend does not know how to see you win without it being about them in some sort of way, not only is that not your friend, they are a user. And they're letting you know, I'm only keeping you around because I see your ability to get some sort of success that I want a part of. Pay attention to that. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious. Ambition is a beautiful thing. We need that drive, that Mars energy. But when people are so ambitious that they only see people as rungs on a ladder, that they only see people as a means to an end, you got to recognize that and really ask yourself, it doesn't matter how much I like this person. It doesn't matter how much I giggle with them. It doesn't matter how many fun times we have over drinks and bullshit. Am I safe in this friendship or in this relationship? And trust what's coming up for you. If you're not safe, remove yourself. Do people have any questions they want me to ask the cards about B. Simone and her friendships? If so, go ahead and type those out in the comment section, and I'm more than happy to get to them. If not, we can just continue with the discussion and the conversation. Asha says, this is an experience that I know all too well. Share more, Asha. If this is something that you've experienced, let us know what parts of what I was talking about that you've experienced, so that way we can have a collective conversation about it, right? But again, if anybody has any questions they want me to take to the cards, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I'll go ahead and take a few moments just to pull cards and see what comes up. But as you guys are doing that, I do want to take a moment just to talk about, why is it skipping my mind? It's in the title. Why your friends are not family. This is a thing that we do a lot, where we call our friends family. And I think some friends do become family over time through loyalty, through dedication, through lived experience. But I think we gotta cool our britches with this behavior, right? And the reason why is because your family is your family. Your friends are not meant to be a replacement for your family. Now, that does not mean that you can't build family within community, right? There are a lot of us where it's due to trauma, due to loss of family, due to, large moves across country, across waters, etc., where we may not be around our blood family, right? So I'm in no way saying that you can't make family in the spaces where you are or in community. You absolutely can. But your friends, not all of your friends are going to be family. And we put ourselves in danger. We set ourselves up for disappointment when we call every friend we have our family. Be careful, right? Friends are separate from family for a reason. Your friends, they're beautiful. You share memories with them. They become your reflections over time. But every friend is not meant to be your family. And it's important that you understand that. And I wrote down a couple things that can happen when we call friends family prematurely, or when we call people family who have not earned that space in our life. The first one, and I think it's super, super important to remember, we blur boundaries very, very easily. Hold on. Asha has shared her story with us, and I want to take a moment to give an update, and then I'll come back to my point about friends not being family. People seeing my light and how they can benefit from me. I have a coworker who was cool in the beginning. I don't tend to mix personal friendships with those at work, but this chick has done a 180. Let's see. The energy has been so weird. The fake niceness and love is so apparent. I've intentionally kept this woman at arm's length. I've been encountering those who have been, yeah. And that's another thing. Sometimes you believe like, well, they can't be, you hear so much bad stuff about a person, right? And you think to yourself, nobody can be this bad. Nobody can be this terrible. And there's the part of you, especially if you have experienced any kind of like misrepresentations or mischaracterizations of your own in your lifetime, right? There's a part of you that wants to be like, okay, I'm gonna give this person a chance because nobody can be that bad. And then you fuck around and find out that fat meat is greasy. you fuck around and you end up experiencing everything that was making other people stay away from that person. Here's what I'll say about this, and this is what I had to really tell myself over the last year and a half. Forgive yourself for your naivete, but celebrate yourself for being so open, right? Because all you were doing was giving this person the openness that you would want to receive. And just because they have character deficits where they didn't know how to not disappoint you, that doesn't mean that you have to beat yourself up, right? But yeah, I can definitely identify with the experience that you've had of this person. I've definitely been there before. Let's see. Scroll down. Sorry. What is happening? Hunsi La Balin says, preach. I have no idea what you were affirming with preach, but thank you. So yeah, and so number one reason why we have to be cautious when calling friends family. It blurs boundaries. It blurs boundaries. That is the long and the short of it. When you label a friend as family, you can start expecting them to show up for you in ways that your biological or your chosen family typically does, right? But they don't have that obligation to you, right? I have in-laws or step family that if I hit a particular bump in the road, I can call them and get support from. I'm going to call them before I call a friend. And then I have some friends that I love truly and deeply, but even if I hit a rough patch, I'm not going to call them because I know that I can't expect those things from them, right? Whether it's them not having it, whether it's them, again, knowing I have a lot of friends who have different values than me, but I don't force my values on them. So if you have a friend and that one of their values is that we don't mix friendship with money, I don't do it. It's not a thing that I do. Then no, you can't get hurt and upset when you hit a rough patch and they're not digging into their purse for you. In fact, if you were truly their friend and you respected their boundaries as a friend, you would not push your familial expectations onto them. But we can do that a lot, especially when we go around calling every friend we make our sister, our brother, you're like an aunt to me. Be careful. Stop projecting those titles onto your friends and start building those relationships in your actual family, right? If you have sisters, instead of going out in the world and collecting women and calling them your sister, work on your relationship with your actual sisters. Or go into community and build actual sisterhood. There are sororities for that. There are female-led organizations for that. There are church and spiritual groups for that. But your homegirl that you've known since third grade, who has different values than you, don't push your values onto them. Respect their boundaries and know your own boundaries. Asha, you just literally spoke my mind out loud. I'm glad. That helps me know that we're all on the right page. Let's see. Mothers placing their besties and their besties' kids above her own, then being betrayed by said friends and blaming the devil on her broke child. That's another thing. I can't tell you how many people, grown people, and here's the thing. I'm an elder millennial. I'm about to say something that's going to piss people off. I don't give a fuck. Millennials are terrible parents. Fight me. Fucking fight me. I don't care. Not all millennials, but the overwhelming majority of millennials are terrible parents. I feel like there's a weird thing where the millennials either treat their children like pets, or they treat them like competition. And we really got to work on that shit. We really got to work on it. Your children are your children. They're not your friends. They're not a replacement for friendships. Stop doing that. So I'm not surprised, La Balin, that you've had this experience of witnessing mothers place their friendships over their own children and then feel betrayed later. That's their karma. Realistically, I'm gonna say it. That's their fucking karma. You should be betrayed by those people, because anybody who would put their friends over their own children deserves whatever happens to them. And you still have to vet your sorority chapters. Girl, I'll say this, I love my sorority down, but there's a reason why I have not connected with the chapter since I've been in Georgia. And I'm gonna leave it there. I agree with you 1,000%, Sylvia. But yeah, so that's the first reason why you shouldn't go run around calling your friends your family. It blurs boundaries. Another reason is that it forces you to ignore the limits of the relationship, right? Sometimes people do this in a way that's overtly manipulative, and sometimes I don't think people understand that they're being manipulative when they do that. Okay? Not every friend is going to be dependable. Not every friend is meant to be as enduring as a family member. I have friendships that felt very, very, very strong, but only lasted like 2 or 3 years. My family is forever. They're not going anywhere. I have had knockdown, drag out fights with my sisters. I'm not proud of it. I mean, knives were pulled. Like, I'm not proud of it. But if anything happens to any of my sisters at any time, I'm dropping everything to take care of them. I cannot say that about friends. If I get into an argument with a friend and the knife is pulled, that's the friendship's over. We're never talking again, right? There are expectations and ways in which my bandwidth is much larger for family. And I don't have those obligations in my friendships. So even when friendships are ready to die and I'm dealing with people that are like, oh, that's mean, that's terrible, why would you do? Well, you did something that violated the boundaries. We just talked about boundaries. You did some shit that violated the boundaries of friendship. So now the relationship is over. No, I don't have to make exception for your unwillingness to change the way that I would a family member. I don't owe you that. My friendships are supposed to be a space of comfort. So when abuse and toxicity shows up, the friendship is over. What do I look like? Putting myself through stress for a relationship that's supposed to bring me comfort. I won't be doing that, right? That's something that I think most of us, if we would have better friendships if we acknowledge that. What happens way too often is that in this name of false loyalty, we will let our friends run over us over and over again. And then we let that resentment cause us to have either physical sickness or spiritual resentment over time. Save that. Don't do that. Just have healthy boundaries, stick to those boundaries, and don't ignore the limits of a relationship. If you are in friendship with somebody who does not know how to respect you, when they know how to respect you because you've had conversations with them about it, and they either act like they don't hear you, or God forbid, even worse, which I dealt with last year, look you in your fucking face and say that they don't owe you shit, then that friendship is over. How can you fix your mouth to tell your friend you don't owe them shit and then be surprised that they don't want to fuck with you no more? Friendships have limits. It's supposed to be okay. And when those limits are broken, it's okay to walk away from that friendship, right? Another reason why we shouldn't call our friends family. It creates unnecessary pressure. I'm going to talk about 3 and 4 together. I have 3 written down as it can create unnecessary pressure. And number 4 is it can be used to manipulate or guilt. And that is purposeful. That unnecessary pressure is there to manipulate and guilt on purpose. It absolutely is. Labalin says, and I can't mention karma because that ain't nothing but the devil himself. It may not be called karma in the Bible. It may be referred to as spiritual law. It may be referred to as God's will. It may be referred to as a lot of things. But what you put back into the world, what you put out into the world, you are going to get back. That justice card energy is real. And to sit there and say that karma, just because you're calling it the name of karma, is nothing but the devil himself is a lie, and the truth ain't in that person. When you do bad, when you do certain things, the weight and the consequences come back to you. That person's an idiot. Those hard times are the true tests for empathy. You will really see who supports you from a genuine place. Absolutely. So let's talk about the unnecessary pressure of calling a friend family. Um, it creates a burden. There's no two ways around it. It creates a burden. The label will become an unspoken obligation that some people didn't sign up for. And that's where the manipulation comes into play. Because the second that you try to articulate your boundary to somebody who has decided to call you family against your will or without your consent, the second that you try to set a boundary, or the second that you try to articulate a standard, that's where that guilt and manipulation comes into place, right? Some people will weaponize the term family in order to emotionally manipulate you. It becomes a way for them to make you do things and to make you accept shit that you have no obligation to accept. So when this alleged friend of 3 years started screaming at me because I would not submit and admit to the lies and the paranoia that they were throwing in my face, and then they started calling me bitches and shit, and then I got upset and blocked numbers, the flying monkeys tried to convince me that I was wrong because, well, that's just the way that they talk. But they don't talk that way with other people. But they don't talk that way with other people. In fact, you're on my phone telling me that that's just the way they talk, and they don't talk that way with you. They did that shit to me because they never respected me. They did that shit to me because the only reason why they entered friendship with me is because I was viable, I was profitable for them in a particular way. And now that I'm inconvenient, I'm a bitch and I'm a terrible person. That tells me that they always felt that way, right? That's how that family bullshit gets used to manipulate. And that's why you can't call your friends your family. Let your friends be your friends. Keep that relationship to what it is, so that way, when things go bad, you can compartmentalize it and heal from it in the way that you need to. That family shit only opens you up to gaslighting and manipulation so that people can get over on you instead of respecting your boundaries and respecting you in the way that they need to. I'm gonna piss some people off with this. Parents should not be calling everyone their kids. Sir, ma'am, focus on the biological kids you're currently neglecting. This is how I feel about people that be on the internet calling Blue Ivy their niece when their kids don't have dinner on the table, or their babies are wearing underwear with holes in it. Like, why are you concerned with Cardi B and Offset's children, and your child just asked you about dinner and you cussed them out to high heaven? But Labalin, I agree with you 1,000%. Stop calling everybody your play daughter. Stop calling everybody your niece on the internet, and take care of your actual children, right? We're going to have to revisit the conversation about parasocial relationships at some point, because the way that people have used relationships from the internet as a replacement for for actual relationships is actually disgusting. But I agree with you 1,000%. 1,000%. And then the last thing that I want to say about why you shouldn't call your friends family. For better or for worse, family is sacred. Family is sacred. It just is. And everybody doesn't have a right to be included in that umbrella. And a lot of times, especially if you are a person who's done a lot of work to heal from toxic family bonds or toxic community bonds, you have to be really, really careful about who you use that word with. Because especially if you attribute the label of family to people who have abused, who are abusing you or will harm you in the same ways that led to you having that broken feeling around the concept of family, then that just becomes wisdom, or that becomes knowledge, or that just becomes stories that you replay in the theater of your mind to justify why you don't need family. And that's not fair. So it sets you up for failure in a way that's not helpful, right? And I know this is not going to stop some of y'all, and that's okay. But I want to pose a few questions that you should ask yourself before you start calling friends or people in your community family. And the first one is, ask yourself if the relationship is reciprocal. Okay. Is this a reciprocal relationship? Am I pouring into this person just as much as they pour into me, and vice versa? Or is this a person who I did some things that benefited them, whether materially or in terms of reputation, and now because I'm convenient, I'm suddenly their family, I'm suddenly their daughter, I'm suddenly their sister, I'm suddenly their whatever, right? If it's the second, if it's the latter, it's not safe to call this person family. And it's best that you not blur those lines or even try to confuse yourself, okay? Another question you need to ask yourself: do we share similar values and expectations, right? I had a friend who would do this all the time. They would always say shit like, well, I know you be going through it, so I want to be the person that you call at 3 a.m. when you need somebody to talk to. I want to be the person that you lean on when you're going through it. And then I did those things when I was going through some things. And that literally became the thing that ended up breaking up the friendship. You guys have heard me talk about this person before. The one that called themselves reading me, but then admitted that they have boils on their pussy because they don't shower enough, right? That was what made the friendship fall apart. I actually took them up on the offers that they were making because these were offers that just sounded good to them, right? It sounded like the things that a benevolent person would do. And then when I started taking them up on that, it became a problem. And how dare you? You know I got children. But I didn't do anything that you didn't invite me to do, right? That's a non-reciprocal relationship. If the relationship is non-reciprocal, keep that person to a drinking buddy, keep that person to a shopping buddy. Let that be the bitch you go to the, first Fridays at the museum with once a month. But that is definitely not a person you need to call family, because that will create a very unhealthy, toxic, unsafe definition of family for you. And especially if you are raising children, you don't need to blur those lines and those definitions in any way. Okay? Last question you really need to ask yourself before you start calling a friend family: am I using the word to reflect reality or to create a deeper tie that may not be there? I'm going to repeat that. Am I using the word to reflect reality or to create a deeper tie that may not be there? People who love bomb do this a lot. People who love bomb love to do this. I remember Single Black Female. If any of you guys listen to my podcast, you've heard me talk about Single Black Female before. Hindsight is always 2020, and I was not as familiar with narcissistic tactics and gaslighting and all this shit at that time. Within a week of me meeting her, she started calling me her sister. I remember there was a conversation that she and I had that was probably maybe all of 20 minutes long. It wasn't that deep. All I did was tell her that I was a part of a blended family. Everybody knows I'm part of a blended family. So, some of my siblings are adopted, some are not. That's all we talked about. And for the whole week after that, she kept calling me her sister. She kept talking about how, oh my God, we just had this deep conversation. I've never connected with anybody that deeply before, right? But that was not the reality of what I experienced, right? But she, again, was using this label to project what she wanted to deepen and create this tie. Why did she want this tie? because the people that we were around mutually really liked and fucked with me, even though she didn't like me, even though she was threatened by me. She wanted to be in with these people who like me. So you got to pay attention to shit like that. Is this person even interacting with you in a way that reflects reality? Or is it painfully obvious that they are just trying to dig their clutches in you to create a bond to justify something that they can get from you? I think all three of those are really important questions to ask yourself. I would love it if you guys stop calling friends family, period. But since y'all not hard-headed asses are not going to do it, at least ask yourself those three questions so that you can stop blurring the lines between friends and family. Because when it all comes down to it, both B. Simone and this young lady seem to have expectations of one another, or had expectations of one another, that fall in line with family, but maybe not so much friendships. If you are in threat of homelessness and potentially not going to have food for your children, it's best your family step up and help you with something like that. It would be great if your friends do it, but if they don't and they can't, maybe manage that expectation. Same thing would be Simone. You can expect your husband or your wife to consider you in their business dealings and transactions. But expecting your friend to not take a business deal because they can't involve you in it, that's fucking crazy. That is insane. Husband or wife, yes. Maybe even sister or brother. But there's no way, I'm glad Dulcinea is here. There's no way I would look at Dulcinea and be like, Dulcinea, bitch, I can't believe you took that job. And you knew there was no way that I could be a part of it. She don't owe me that. She does not owe me that. That is my friend. That is not my family. That's not my husband or my wife. So both B. Simone and her friend need to figure out a way to manage expectations. Because a lot of the resentment that was brewing between the two of them, and they seem to have dealt with it to a certain degree, but those type of tensions that brew, those type of interactions will lead to tensions brewing, and it's just not necessary. I do see that somebody had a question they wanted me to take to the cards. La Balin wants to know, is B. Simone's estranged relationship with her mother or mother wounds in direct correlation with her not being perceived as a girl's girl? I think that is an amazing question. I don't know enough about her to know that she had mother wounds. So we'll see how that comes up. Ancestors, angels, ascended master spirits walk with me. Can you give us any wisdom about B. Simone and her relationship to her mother? How does her relationship with her mother impact her friendships? What can you tell us about the nature of her mother wounds and how those play into her relationships with other women? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. And thank you, La Balin. You know that I write and talk and teach quite a bit about mother wounds. And it's not just with women, this is with men too. People who have unaddressed mother wounds end up having difficult relationships with women in their life, period. So it'll be interesting to see what the cards have to say. I'm gonna pull four. Typically do 3, but I'm gonna do 4. It feels right. So what the cards are saying, and this is really interesting, La Balin, it's not bringing up the mother or the mother archetypes in any way. Her obsession with men makes her not a girl's girl. She's very male-centered and very male-identified. everything she does is in the name of bringing her closer to partnership with a man. It's like that's her primary goal. So she will shit on other women if it gets her more attention from guys, right? So she doesn't even really care, low key, about women and what they have to say, how they feel about her. That's not her concern. She has to be baby. She has to be the most vibrant woman in the room. She has to be the center of attention. So she deeply sees other women as competition for the attentions of men, constantly looking for a new relationship, constantly hoping that she can do something, say something, do something attention grabbing enough to make a man fall in love with her, to bring new love or new dick, not to be vulgar, into her life, new wands being the new dick. She's deeply desperate for romance, 8 of Wands, Cupid's arrows. So it's not the mother wounds that make it hard for her to have relationships with women. It's the pick me energy. It's the I'm not. These 4 cards give me an energy of a woman who feels like they are not complete unless they have a man by their side. I believe it was on a reality show when she called her mom. Her mom simply said hi very cheerfully, and she immediately burst into tears and hung up. Wow. Wow. There's something there, absolutely. But the cards are saying that when it comes to her friendships, it's her obsession with men and her need to get attention from men and her seeing women as competition for in terms of the attention from men. So that's what I got from the cards. All right. Well, I don't think we have any other questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up for the night. I just wanted to make sure we came on here and did a happy hour because June, I was about to say July. That's where my head is at. June has been a busy month for me, and I wasn't able to do as many lives as I would have liked to. We'll do another happy hour next week on Thursday. So if any of you guys have any topics, anything that you'd be interested in discussing, put it in the comment section of this video, and I'll consider it for our happy hour discussion next week. But just to wrap up, I want to tell you guys about a few things that I'm working on. Last 4 days of the online course sale. So you can get courses from my website, soleilconjureshop.com, for as low as $11.11. Course bundles for as low as $22.22. Whole terms of Charm School for as low as $44.44. This is a summer online course sale, formerly known as the summer school sale. So these classes will not be this low again until June of next year. So go ahead and take advantage before the 30th, before the sale expires. Next round of Rich Spirit taking place July 14th through the 17th. So if you're interested in working on your financial blockages, releasing your financial blockages, and calling more wealth and abundance into your life, click the link below so that you can join the intake group and find out more about the Rich Spirit Prosperity Ritual. What else? In-person healing sessions, July 24th through 27th here in Atlanta, Georgia. If you would like to get a healing ritual done by me, it's basically like a spiritual doctor's appointment. You come in, I observe you, we do divination. From there, I give you a spiritual diagnosis. I then walk you through several healing rituals and exercises, and then I create on spot some spiritual medicines and prescriptions for you to take home. It's fantastic. The ones I've done in California were really, really beautiful, and I'm looking forward to doing them here in Georgia. So if you would like to come down and receive this session with me, go ahead and click the link below to find out more information. That's everything. Until Sunday, when we return for the weekly energy reading, I want you all to take care, have an amazing weekend, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.